Of the 5:30 news.
Our top story, the Corral Fire northwest of Helena. More evacuations have been ordered and more structures have been lost.
For the latest on the fire, we send it to Marnay Banks, who's standing by live on Green Meadow Drive. Marnay.
Well, I just got back from flying over the Corral Fire, and I've got to tell you that the wind is really changing the name of the game at the fire here in Helena. There were 200 evacuations in place earlier today, but at this point, Sheriff Dutton is evacuating more homes. They are now evacuating Greenfield Loop off Norris Road and will continue to evacuate new areas ahead of the fire as it moves. The fire is currently moving northeast. It's estimated at about 1,200 acres, and it's about 20% contained. DNRC confirms, yes, 4 homes have unfortunately been burned by the fire. And I was at a press briefing earlier today where we heard from DNRC officials and Sheriff Dutton. Let's hear from them now.
We just had gusts over 40, I'm sure. So we had some slop over on our line here, just off of Green Meadow, and we're currently in a pretty good battle out there right now.
People seem to think that the road closed sign applies to the guy behind them, but it's really them. So the road closed sign, Highway Patrol is helping us out. We're stopping people. This area is evacuated. If we see you moving, we'll stop you unless you're escorted, because we're trying to maintain the safety and security of the homes of whom we have evacuated.
I spoke with Sheriff Dutton earlier. He says road closures still remain in effect, and people driving up and trying to dodge the road closures are posing a problem. So he's asking people just to stay away from the area. They are trying to get this under control, and anyone who is in need of shelter can go to First Assembly of God Church on Dodge Avenue. Red Cross has set up shelter there. And then, of course, if there's any donations that people want to bring for firefighters, those are welcome too. Food, water, those types of things. I spoke with Evan Weberg, our reporter, a little bit earlier. He was at Capitol High School at 4 p.m. for the public meeting. He said the room was entirely packed. We'll be sure to hear from him tonight at 10 o'clock. Tim, Shannon?
All right, thanks, Marnay. Well, it was much cooler for today's firefighting efforts, but the winds kept crews on their toes.
All right, Mike joins us now. And Mike, we're seen windy conditions, obviously. Saw that with Marnay. What can we expect this evening?
Well, one thing I want to talk about here, for Great Falls, north central Montana, the severe weather threat has ended. Severe thunderstorm watch no longer in effect. We're going to be good the rest of the night, I think, across the northern part of our KRTV viewing area. For KXLH, for Helena, it's not looking good right there. 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Where you see the numbers there, those are individual observation sites that are around Helena. You see the fire there just off to the west of the interstate, and we're getting winds gusting right now, I just checked, around 30 to 40 miles per hour. Those humidity values have not come up at all. We're sitting around 25% relative humidity, so it is just not looking good there for those battling the blazes. Here's what you need to know. We'll see increasing humidity and lower winds overnight, but it's going to take a while for things to recover. Tomorrow, we're going to get winds up to about 30 miles per hour again during the afternoon, and here's the worst part. I don't see any significant rain on the way in the next 7 days. In fact, the highest percentage chance of rainfall I have in the forecast is 20%, and we'll look at that coming up.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. Well, while new evacuations were ordered today, yesterday's evacuees were allowed to go back and check on their homes.
Melissa Anderson went along with some of those residents for what was a short and bittersweet homecoming. She joined us live from Green Meadow Drive with more on that story. Melissa.
Yeah, Tim and Shannon, you know, as Marnay said earlier, evacuations were made later this afternoon, but people who were evacuated yesterday were allowed to go back into their homes for a brief time to check it out. And while some went home to good news, others, unfortunately, there was nothing left. Cars filled with evacuees were lined up early this morning, waiting for sheriff's deputies to escort them back into their homes. Most of them needed to check on animals or pick up medications and some essential items.
It's very sad for someone to lose their home, but the important thing is that people are safe.
Linda Juvic, her husband Dick, and their dog Copper were escorted to their home on Latigo Road, close to where the fire started. When they returned, they heard the automatic message left by the sheriff to evacuate.
Evacuations have been ordered in the area of the Scratch Scribble Hills due to a large wildfire.
We were being evacuated. It was not an option. That was yesterday.
And like other residents, they had also been handed evacuation orders explaining the importance of leaving.
And that way we know once the evacuation order has been lifted where we can contact them and let them know that it's safe to go back to their home.
The Wampler family was also thankful to return to home and find their bunnies were safe. They too picked up a few items and were gracious that their house is still standing.
It's nice to see our house here. I thought it was gone. I could see it come over the hill, and you could see the trees behind our house were on fire, and I just thought our house was gone. We had one house burned down in Colorado.
But news wasn't so good for David Rico. He and his wife have literally nothing to come home to. Their mobile home was one of 4 homes that burned to the ground after wind shifted.
When we go, so don't start looking for things, that you should souvenirs to get the hell here now.
Meanwhile, fire crews continue to put out hot spots next to those smoldering remains. From Helena, Melissa Anderson for Montana's news station. Yeah, by noon today, the wind started to pick back up. That's when those evacuations came in. And as you can tell behind me, it's still blowing in gusts up to 50 miles an hour or so have been reported in this area. People will not be allowed to go back to their homes until they can deem this area safe. So we just have to hope and pray that the winds die down so they can get a handle on this blaze. Back to you.
Thanks, Melissa. Lewis and Clark Search and Rescue has been playing a key role providing communications for the fire. Volunteers have been manning the rescue base, which logs all movement in the fire control area. The Logistics Operations Center on wheels is used as the incident command post primarily for law enforcement. The system allows other agencies to interface using radio communications.
Right now we're monitoring radio traffic with all of the checkpoints and all of the law enforcement rovers who are acting as escorts to get folks back into their homes for medication, some to feed their animals, and moving them back and forth safely. And so we keep track of where they are, when they come, when they go, so that we know at any given point in time where everybody is.
A family day out on the Missouri